We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
Nosotros crecemos cuando damos.
We grow when we give.
与えるとき、成長する。
We grow when we give.
Welcome to ROG, Return on Generosity, a podcast celebrating generosity at work. Not financial giving, giving valuable time, alternative perspectives, and genuine collaboration.
Welcome back to ROG, Return on Generosity. I'm your host, Shannon Cassidy, and today's guest brings a powerful combination of heart, humility, and leadership. I'm thrilled to welcome Brett Brackett, the executive director of Uplifting Athletes, a former Penn State and NFL athlete who's transformed his platform into a purpose-driven mission. Brett leads with generosity every day, amplifying the rare disease community through advocacy, awareness, and action. In this episode, Brett shares his journey from the football field to the front lines of nonprofit leadership and the personal calling that led him to serve others in such a meaningful way. You'll hear about the power of purpose, the importance of using your influence for good, and how Brett fosters a culture of impact at Uplifting Athletes. Let's dive in and learn from Brett's incredible example of leading with heart. What I appreciate most about you, Brett, is your courage. It takes courage to put yourself out there in service of others, courage to play sport at the levels that you've played, and courage to agree to be a guest on a podcast. Welcome to ROG, Brett.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to meet you and get to know you and listen more to all that you've done through the podcast, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know you aren't often the guest, so I appreciate you accepting the invite. Please tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I mean, I grew up in central New Jersey, was given a great opportunity to use my athletic ability to move on to play college football at Penn State. I was thrilled to kind of experience something that I had dreamed of, and it was all that I had imagined and more. Then I've, lucked out that talent took me to another level where I had an opportunity to play in the NFL for 5 years. I went undrafted, went at it for 5 years. I got 3 credited seasons, bounced all across the country, trying out for different teams, making different rosters and practice squads. And when that was done and nobody wanted to sign me anymore, I had this tremendous opportunity to join an organization called Uplifting Athletes that aligned with a lot of things that are who I'm about. And so the connection of using sports to help people just aligns so much with my personal mission. And it's been a thrill to be a part of this for the last 8 years and hope to continue for a long time. Incredible.
And you have a really vast football career. You've played different positions at every level. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think it lends itself well to like just adaptability in life, right? I mean, there's one path that you think you want to follow in life, but in reality, it's not a straight line. And so I was a quarterback in high school that wanted to play quarterback in the NFL. But at certain points in my life, I realized that I could probably have one, but not the other. So my pursuit of the NFL ended up having me change positions in college. When I got to college, I got moved to wide receiver. And then when someone came knocking and said, "Hey, you have a chance to play in the NFL, but you have to be tight end." All right, sounds good.
There we go.
So the adaptability lesson and not having that straight line to maybe some of your destinations is played out right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good lesson in and of itself, is just being willing to accept opportunities even when they weren't exactly what you were looking for, because you never know what's going to come, right?
Right.
So tell me a little bit more about your family, siblings, all of that.
So I grew up, I'm one of 4 kids. I'm the oldest of 4. And it's just kind of one of those things where you get these built-in best friends, and I cherish my siblings and the time we spend together. My little brother was at my son's baseball game last night. And it's just, we've supported each other throughout our lives. We're our biggest cheerleaders. I chose to go to Penn State because I wanted to be close to my family so they could come and be a part of that with me. And back and forth, right? So I love supporting my siblings. 2 of my brothers were good basketball players. They had an opportunity to go overseas and play in a tournament, and so I was the fan, right? I went with them, and I got to watch and take pictures and just be a fan of them. And our sister, I feel like she's been drug along to all the sporting events. So when she did dance growing up, sure enough, we had to be there front and center, cheering her on. So we're just in this supportive, tight knit family that it's just one of those things where, like I said, you got built-in best friends, but you also have those people that you can bounce things off of. Laughter, all these different things that siblings bring. And so just fortunate to have that core group of people in my life. And now I have 4 kids of my own.
Yeah, I was going to segue to that. Yeah, you and Jamie made your own little tribe.
Yeah, I think, I enjoyed that environment growing up a ton. And my wife was one of 2, and she had always hoped to have a bigger family. So God willing, it's worked out for us. We have 4 beautiful kids, and now just going through, like, thinking every day, like, man, how did my parents do this? Like,
How did they do it? Right.
It's such a gift.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And how you're all so involved and engaged in each other's lives. It's such a beautiful thing. We don't all have that. So I love that you appreciate it. And that you just have paid it forward, right? You're creating your own friend group among your kids. Yeah. That's beautiful. So you talked about, going to Penn State and now Uplifting Athletes. Like, how did that come to pass that you're involved in such a big way?
Well, it's kind of one of those things that, growing up, I saw so many examples of generosity and giving, and whether it was the coaches, the youth sports coaches that poured into us for free, right? That was something that from the bottom of the hearts, they wanted to help the next generation. And there were so many coaches in my life, from very little ages to all the way up to the NFL, that just poured into me. There were coaches that I wouldn't have been able to make it to some of these sporting events if there weren't some of them that were willing to come pick me up and bring me.
Literally physically get you there.
Yeah, like my mom could only be in so many places at once, right? So that really shaped me a lot. And so when I got a gift to go play college football at Penn State, I wanted to pay it forward. I wanted to find ways to give and help others with the platform that I had. And I walked into the locker room one day as a freshman, and there was a note on the board that said, "Hey, meeting for Lift for Life, come by if you want to help." And there was a couple of seniors on the team or older guys on the team that I looked up to, and I was like, hey, if they're doing it, I'll give it a shot. And, quickly learned a little bit about why we were having a Lift for Life, and just got hooked by the opportunity we had to serve others and help other people. And, that kind of spiraled into now 20 years later, essentially, I'm still involved in a different way, in a way that I never even imagined when I was 18 years old in 2006 in college. What I was volunteering for could be what it is today.
Yeah, unbelievable. So you saw the flyer, you went to the Lift for Life. Please, for our listeners, explain what that is.
Yeah, so in 2003, there was a Penn State football player whose dad was diagnosed with a rare form of kidney cancer. And at the time, the team would work out together all summer, so you're away from your family. And the strength coach would have what he called like a 4th of July lift. So the families would come up, they'd get to watch the workout, and then afterward they'd barbecue, hang out, and like basically a parents' weekend,
Yeah.
And so they turned that workout into what we now call Lift for Life. They raised some money, donated it to kidney cancer research, and then that happened for a few years following. The kid that was playing college football graduated, got a job, and he was doing great. Unfortunately, in that time frame, his dad passed away. He felt called to do more. So he quit his job. He moved in with his mom. And that's when he started Uplifting Athletes when I was a freshman in college. And so, by participating in that and then being around in a very formidable time of the organization, I got to know the founder really well, was volunteering my time to help him, grow it at Penn State, build it beyond Penn State, really focus the mission on supporting all rare diseases beyond just kidney cancer. And it's transformed my life. It's transformed the organization has transformed tremendously since those early days, and how we now include all college sports, Division I college sports teams are able to participate in our programming. And we do this now in 3 ways. We serve families for today, tomorrow, and the future. We hold unique events for today called Uplifting Experiences that are ways to connect the athletes with the families impacted by rare diseases locally. We fund rare disease research in the hopes of developing treatments and cures for tomorrow. And then we focus on developing future leaders through college athletics by investing in these student athletes when they're young and have these formidable minds of understanding what service and giving back can really do for your life. So we have a leadership conference every year. We bring them together, teach them about what a rare disease is, and then send them back to campus with the ability to host the uplifting experiences, raise money to support the mission, and generate awareness for rare diseases. And that turns into kind of like a life skills internship-like opportunity. But we hope that while we hope they continue to serve rare diseases forever, we also understand that different things in their lives are going to move them to want to care and do other things. And if they have that like basis of what it means and how to do it, they're going to be leaders in our community into the future. So that's kind of the core of what we're doing now. And I'm just grateful to be a part of it.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. And I want to circle back to that event and just what does that feel like in your most recent one? But you were talking about Scott Shirley, right? Isn't that the founder? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Scott
what can you tell us about Scott?
I mean, Scott's the epitome of one of the people that shaped how I saw generosity. Scott's one of those guys that just had it in his heart that there was some calling for him and took something that was a tremendously challenging time for him and his family. We meet so many people that are going through some of the most horrific times of their life, whether it's losing a loved one or just going through the changes that happen with the medical complexities of a rare disease. Mm-hmm. And he took something that was just so challenging for his family and turned it into good, not only for him, but for others. And so like watching him go through that process, I mean, it was 2006, 2007 when he had quit his job at Clark Construction. He moved back home from DC and he had nothing. He was moving in with his mom. He had I think it was a Toyota Solero convertible top black, and he was putting hundreds of thousands of miles in that car, driving to any college football program that would listen to his story and wanted to try to do more to help. And so like just the hours he put in, and so many people along the way used their form of generosity to help uplifting athletes get where it is today. But it wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for Scott's initial, inkling and desire to make this more than just the Lift for Life that happened a couple of years to support his family and what was going on. And now hundreds of families and researchers and the rare disease community have been positively impacted by something that was really a tragedy for his family.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. Has he ever shared with you like when that transition happened in his mind where he was like, this is my life purpose?
I think it was really, from what he's explained to me and what I can recall, it was how when those 2003, 2004, 2005 Lift for Lives were happening, there's things in your life that I'm sure that come and go, right? They happen, whether it's an event or something you do. But for him, it just felt like there was so much more to be had, so much more that I think meeting people in the rare disease community and knowing there was such a commonality and a bond, but it was just kind of a community divided within their own little diseases that they were affected by. He just saw at the time college football was starting to grow, and big money was starting to influence college football. He jokes that anything that somebody did wrong, it was on the front page of the student newspaper, right? As a student athlete. And so the awareness, which was lacking in the rare disease community, and the funding, which was lacking, were in abundance at the time in college football. So he just kind of felt like this was too good of an opportunity to pass up, and something that impacted him, but he saw could have such a bigger impact on the 30 million people that in the U.S. that are affected by rare diseases.
Thank you for that segue, because I think it's important for our listeners to understand what is a rare disease. I mean, I looked it up in preparation for our call today. And what I learned was a rare disease is a disorder, illness, or condition that affects fewer than 200,000 Americans, but there are over 10,000 rare diseases, and together that affects more than 30 million Americans. I have a nephew who has CSS, which is Coffin-Siris syndrome, very rare disease. So that's my familiarity with it. But what else can you teach us about rare diseases?
You covered a lot of the basics, right? It's a disease that the U.S. classifies as one that affects less than 200,000 Americans per year. There's over 10,000 of them. A lot of them you've probably never heard of, but there are ones that you have heard of, like type 1 diabetes or ALS. But then there's ones that are defined by their genetic mutation, like SLC6A1, right? And that there's not a name for it yet because they're still studying and trying to learn more. And what the challenge is that there's over 10,000 rare diseases, and each one of them takes such a concerted effort to learn more and dive deeper into. But the resources that exist are so few and far between. And what ends up happening is someone will go to the doctor, and likely doctors are trained to listen to the symptoms that they're being told. And you try to track those symptoms and eliminate possible diagnosis by what the symptoms are being told. So if you walk into an office with a headache, they're going to say, oh, okay, they'll evaluate and say, with those symptoms, this is what you could potentially be affected by. So when someone goes in with certain symptoms and, you say, oh, well, if it's not this, then it's this. If it's not this, then it's that. And what ends up happening is you go through a lot of the common things first. And so a lot of doctor's visits of trying to figure out what it is. And, the average path to diagnosis is 3 to 5 years for someone impacted by a rare disease. And think about all the time that it takes and the frustration and the unknowns and potentially
and
treatments that are ineffective and potentially cause side effects that are unnecessary. So there's really a long pathway to finding answers. And a lot of times once you get that answer, the hard part is, oh, great, I have a diagnosis, I know what this is, but then I'm sorry, we just don't know enough about this. There's not a treatment on the market for this or whatever. And it's like this another dip in just your mental impact on what you can do to help yourself or your family member. And that's a lot of the challenges that people that are impacted by rare diseases go through that we've heard about. And, again, it's things that you've heard of. It's more common than it actually is rare. 1 in 10 Americans are impacted by rare diseases. And like you said, if hey, you have a nephew that's impacted by a rare disease. And it's when I walk into a college football program, there's 100 student athletes in the room. They can look around the room and 1 in 10 of those people, so that's very common within that room, can look and say, well, yeah, I have an aunt or a sister or a brother or myself or somebody directly impacted with rare diseases. So it's not that uncommon.
Right. And so important. And I really love your vision for Uplifting Athletes, which is no person impacted by a rare disease feels alone and everyone's inspired with hope for the future. I mean, what an important vision and purpose to know that you recognize how lonely and frustrating and painful and all of those other things that this must be like for these people. So you've created a community. So tell us about the big events, like maybe the most recent one.
Yeah, so we talked about the Lift for Life that has been going on for over 20 years, starting at Penn State, and now we have about 40 of them a year at different college programs, both men's and women's sports. We're coming across. We just finished our spring Lift for Life season. Our summer Lift for Life season kicks off actually tomorrow, June 6th. Boston College gets us going, and then Penn State June 19th, and then throughout the rest of June and July, there's probably about 30 of them that are going to happen. But it's these student athletes taking a workout that they would do any day. And turning it into an opportunity to raise money and awareness for people impacted by rare diseases. So we'll do about 40 of those in partnership with college teams across the country throughout the year. And that's how we're raising funds to support those 3 areas that I talked with you about. And when we're funding research, we host this unique event called the Young Investigator Draft. This draft has been held annually at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Imagine a sports draft, except instead of drafting the athletes, we're drafting researchers that we think have the potential to find treatments and cures for rare diseases, right? So that's as unique as it sounds. It's just like a draft where they get called up on stage. They get a jersey like this. This is the jersey from 2022. These are what the researchers got. We got them for all of our team. They're a great little icebreaker when you're on a call like this, right? But,
absolutely.
These researchers are doing such incredible things, and we funded research prior to the draft. And what ends up happening is you send an email, the researcher gets an acceptance email, and they're like behind their computers, like, yes, excited. But what they're doing is so incredible. It deserves to be celebrated the same way that we celebrate athletes in sports in this country. And so we're giving them that stage. We're giving them that platform. We have over 300 people that attend this event now. And we're celebrating the incredible work they're doing, their accomplishment of receiving this grant funding that hopefully leads to the treatments and cures for tomorrow. And it's unique. It's one of a kind. It's like something that we're uniquely positioned to do, but it's gotten a lot more excitement in recent years, and people are really enjoying it.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible! I want to go. Yeah. I totally want to come. Yes.
So for February 31st of 2026. So you got to put on your calendar.
Okay, I'll put it on my calendar. I'm going to be there. So tell me about some of the people who have been drafted or recognized at this event. Like, what are they doing?
So since we started the draft in 2018, we've drafted 64 different researchers and given out over $1.2 million worth of research grants. We've partnered with 40 different condition-specific organizations and have funded through about 40 different institutions. The researchers themselves are absolutely incredible. I think I can go through all 64 of them and give you just an incredible story of what they've done and what they've continued to do since being funded. To name a few, there's one of our friends, his name is Dr. David Fagenbaum. He's known for actually finding a cure for his own rare disease and has started a couple different organizations like the Castleman Disease Collaborative Network, Every Cure, and is doing a ton of amazing work in medicine and repurposing drugs and finding treatments and cures for Castleman disease. And so someone like that was part of our first draft class in 2018, and has since gone on to do some incredible things, is getting funding to do great work in rare disease. And then, his lab at the University of Penn, we've probably funded a different researcher through his lab several times through the draft process. And every single one of them, I could just keep going down the line about just the amazing work they're doing, the impact they're having, the progress they're making in the specific diseases they're studying. And just for the sake of time, instead of going through all 64, I'll figure I'll mention Dr. Fagenbaum, who does an incredible job.
Yeah, and they're listed
Yes.
on your site, so we can,
Yes.
people, please take a look at that and get involved. How can people get involved? For those who are listening and like, oh, I want to participate in this, what would be like small and big ways that people could engage in uplifting athletes?
So some of the small ways are as simple as following us on social media. We have Instagram, X, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Following us there, engaging by liking, commenting, and sharing our content. Like that helps a ton. And everybody's on those platforms, and it's something that I think is easy for people to do if they know that helps. And it helps a ton. Beyond that, come to the Young Investigator Draft. It's a great way to get, dive into, see what we're doing in real time, and get to feel it for yourself. And, just attending that, it's huge to also build the support system for those researchers to, some of that money goes towards putting more research grants out there. On top of that, we host a leadership conference every year. So if there are companies out there that are interested in potentially hiring these incredible student athletes, they're very desirable potential employees, whether they could be interns or employees in the future. We have this leadership conference that companies can come and be a part of through a career fair or through these networking lunches that we do, and get to know these student athletes. And so I would encourage you to reach out about ways to partner through our leadership conference. And then others that, just genuinely care about wanting to move our mission forward. There are many people that make individual contributions to support our organization. And as a 501c3 nonprofit, there's obviously a charitable gift component to that, and just something that is going to have an immense impact on the three areas of the rare disease community that we serve.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you. What practical and meaningful ways for people to get involved. So for, there's probably a million ROG stories from what you do, like how people invest, and maybe they just invest because they think, oh, this seems like a good idea, or I'm an athlete, or I'm suffering from a rare disease, or whatever their reason is. But then they get so much back in return, like meaning that satisfaction and the fulfillment. Do any ROG stories come to mind?
When we were preparing for this, it was one of those things where I kind of could just continue to go again on, what the space that we're in is filled with generosity.
Yeah, right? That's the whole thing.
Creating organization because of generosity.
Yeah.
I can share a couple of unique ones that I think potentially are not well known, that I think are worth sharing. We work with incredible student athletes across the country. We've worked with thousands of them now over the years. And with kind of the transition in college athletics, people are talking about name, image, likeness. And, I think there's some common misconceptions about what name, image, likeness is. Everybody has a name, image, and a likeness, right? You can make money on your name, image, and likeness. Now, student athletes are able to do that in a college athletic setting.
Mm-hmm.
And just, it's amazing to me how when someone has been given an opportunity to maybe make some money for themselves or enhance their name, image, and likeness, we've been brought in partnerships with some of these student athletes as a way for them to give back, right? So they're potentially getting paid or making money, but in that moment they're saying, how can I pay that forward and give it back? So, we had one student athlete who had done a project with a financial institution, and part of it was, hey, I'll do this as long as you give X amount of this to a charity that I really love to support. So, that was one way, right? Another way is this student athlete had been in partnership with a candy company, and, the candy company's like going to be able to give a certain amount of money to the nonprofit of their choice, right? If you partner with this agreement. So like all of these different ways. And then we have student athletes that do these Live for Lives. And just recently there was a student athlete that said, I'm going to match dollar for dollar anybody that donates through my link. Right. And just wow. These are college kids, right? It's just amazing to me, the generosity that they have and the way that they're, involved with helping others at such a young age. It's just amazing to me. And so those are just a couple of small examples of, when I was in college, I umpired Little League baseball games in the summertime just so I had a little bit of fun money during the semester. And these student athletes could do so many things with the money that they're coming across right now in these opportunities. But to think about others and how they can help, I'm just so grateful to be a part of it.
Yes. Oh, I so appreciate that NIL example, because I think the narrative out there is that these young athletes are making all this money and they're squandering it and buying cars and other things. And some are, but the example that you're sharing, and I think, I'm putting myself in the position of that athlete and just how much motivation that would drive,
Yeah.
knowing like, if you invest in me, I'm going to double it and we're going to, make this contribution. It's just so, it's really like the it's like unconventional wisdom to think like I give things away and then I have more, but that's how it works, right? You give things away and then you just have this abundance of joy and purpose. It's just so beautiful.
I completely agree. And you bring up an amazing point that what a lot of people see, if you're not within it, what a lot of people see are what the headlines will say about something. So I have been in locker rooms from, youth sports to college to the NFL. And I can tell you that all the teammates that I've been a part of teams with, they're incredible people. That they are people just like you and me that go home to their families. They have parents, they have kids, they have friends and families. And what ends up happening is they get put in a box by what maybe a few people have done wrong, or a few people have done to bring attention in a negative way. But majority of these people are great people that love to help and want to give back. And it's just it's interesting that when you're within it, you can see it. But when certain outlets present kind of the stuff that's going to grab attention, you don't get to see the meat of the good that's going on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so true. And in preparation for our conversation today, you shared a scripture verse, Luke 6:38, which is, give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full. The amount you give will determine the amount you get back. That's a ROG quote for sure. Tell us what's so meaningful about that to you.
It's just rang true throughout my entire life. I feel like every time I'm trying to hold on to something, it crumbles. But when I'm willing to give, just like people have done for me, it's what births like just this multiplication of generosity and impact. And it's just been so true in every phase of my life. And that verse just resonates so well with me. I have a son named Luke, right? And it just kind of resonates with me so much that giving is the greatest form of getting. I've never really felt any other way. It's just a core of who I am. And I feel like it's one of those things that people can take almost a little bit for granted. It's such a simple way. And for me growing up too, it wasn't exactly like we always had what we needed. We didn't have excess needs. But it didn't mean that we couldn't be generous. I could always remember come holiday time, my mom was a baker, right? She would bake so many cookies. And you couldn't possibly eat them all. But one of the things she always did, she wrapped up a package, we brought it into school for our teachers, right? And it was like, you don't have to have money to be generous. It could be so many different ways. One of our board members talks about people's time, talent, and treasure, right? You can be generous in all of those three things. You can be generous in one of those three things. And so just those examples are just ring true. And that verse kind of just summarizes it and really gives a pointed direction for me.
For sure. And I can imagine being at your conference and having these young athletes and then all of these like businesses and, a whole array of humanity and just how everybody's there to serve each other. I mean, it just sounds like such an awesome opportunity to be a part of something that has such meaning.
Oh, it's one of the coolest parts of it, honestly. I was one of those student athletes that attended one of the very first conferences that Uplifting Athletes put on. It didn't look like what they look like today. A lot less people, a little different setting. But it's really awesome to be in a room with like-minded people with similar visions and similar desires to give back. And when you can put minds like that together, I really believe anything is possible. And that's why I think we are where we are today, is because we've been able to work with some incredible people that are very generous, service-oriented, and putting those people together, they inspire one another. They inspire increased change and increased opportunities for the impact that we're having. And I feel so energized. It's a long conference, long hours preparing for it, and it's a lot to go through. But I still feel like the most energy after we get done with that weekend. And it's so cool.
Absolutely. So what are some of the misconceptions, would you say, about athletes at those peak levels? I mean, you have played at the highest levels in both college sport and the NFL. I mean, I think there's very often misconceptions about
Mhm.
athletes. And then, it seems like the rare few really care deeply about others, but I'm getting the sense that that's not so rare.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of them. Trying to think, I started to articulate a little bit about one of them, right? That what is portrayed in the media is probably a select few, and there's so many great people within those locker rooms on those teams. One of them is one of the misconceptions that I don't think there's anybody that wants to win the games more than the athletes that are putting in the work to do so.
Yeah.
Despite we're humans, just like if we make mistakes, we make errors. Sometimes they're just publicized in front of millions of people that get to criticize it or be critical of it.
Yeah.
But in general, I think those misconceptions come and go.
Yeah.
But the biggest one for me that I always like to make known is there are some incredible people. There are people just like you and I that go home to their families, that have people that love them, and they have people that they love. And there are people that are having a tremendous impact on society with some of the gifts they've been given. Whether it's the gift to make a ton of money playing a sport and then being able to build up a community they came from, or donate to a cause that they believe in, or even just using their platform to show up at an event to inspire others, right? And so there are so many people in those sports, men's and women's sports across all different leagues that are using that platform for good. And I just kind of seem to like to attract myself to those type of people because it breathes life. It just breathes the energy that we need.
That's beautiful. So let's give a little shout out to Penn State.
We are.
My nephew is starting there in the fall, and I'm so excited for his experience. I know that's where you went to school and where this really originated. So what can you tell us about Penn State?
Penn State's an incredible place. I knew as soon as I got the offer from Penn State, I had opportunities to go a lot of different places, but I wanted to go to a place where I could get the best football, the best academics, and the best college atmosphere possible, as close as I could to home. And that was Penn State for me. The community there, they call it Happy Valley for a reason. If you've never been there, you go there and you'll understand why. I mean, when you have a rival team coming into town, except for maybe a select few, it's a very welcoming community. You can tailgate with anybody. Come on, we're here to have a good time and enjoy a good college football game. And just the atmosphere. I mean, I went to high school in New Jersey, and we had good support for our athletics. But we'd probably get on a good day maybe 500 to 1,000 people that attended a game. And so as a freshman, I walk into Beaver Stadium and there's 110,000 people. I'm just like, what is going on here?
That had to be overwhelming.
It was. I redshirted my freshman year, and I till this day, if I didn't redshirt, I don't know what would have happened because I spent the first 3 games just looking around, going like, what is this?
Is it so loud down there? That has to be deafening, right?
Yeah. Fortunately, home games, I'm on offense, so they are pretty quiet, which is good. But when the defense is on the field, all the crowd is trying to do is disrupt the other team's offense. And so I got to watch that a little bit while I wasn't on the field. But it's mind-boggling. It literally rattles in your helmet, like how loud it can get.
How loud it can be. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Yeah, it just seems like such a wonderful place. And I love that it's mission-driven and they do a lot of philanthropy work and just try to give back. And the way that you're doing it is just so beautiful. So any other messages that you wanted to make sure our listeners hear?
I just want people to understand that no matter where you are and who you are, you have an opportunity to help and impact other people. What formed a lot of my early influence with Uplifting Athletes was a letter that we got from a woman who had just recently graduated, moved on, and was excited about the outlook on her life and her career. And she wasn't feeling right, went to the doctor. Long story short, she ends up being diagnosed with a rare disease, told there's not much they can do to help, and that she should just go home and live the rest of the life she has with her family because they didn't think there was much left. And so she felt hopeless and alone in that moment. She wrote us a letter and explained that to us and then said she did what the doctor told her not to. She Googled her rare disease, and while she found some scary stuff, she also found an article about the Penn State football team that was raising money and awareness for rare diseases. And in that moment, she said she went from feeling alone to knowing that she had 120 people, at least 120 people that were in this fight with her. And because of that, she felt the confidence and ability to go and conquer her rare disease. And so having never met that person, just doing something that we do every day, we could have a positive impact on her life. And just by holding the door open for somebody that's having a bad day, walking into Wawa, you
That's
can
it.
positively impact life. Doesn't matter where you have an opportunity. So that's my big message, is that you always have a chance to positively impact other people. It just matter what you do with the moments you have.
Well said. Oh my gosh, that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with us. So, you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's start with question number 1. What's one lesson from football that still shows up in your life today?
Hard work beats talent. I stop it there because the rest of it is when talent doesn't work hard. But I just think generally hard work beats talent. And sometimes when you get that mixture of talent and hard work, it's where you can just kind of take off.
Yeah. Oh, it's really helpful for our listeners to hear that too, because they might be struggling in some area of their life, and you're saying, don't give up, keep working hard.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What is more nerve-wracking, game day in the NFL or public speaking?
Public speaking. I think we talked about like that stadium environment. When you get really locked in and focused, and you've been doing it for a little while, you don't even know it's around you. Like, people ask me all the time, how did you play in front of 100,000 people? It could have been 5 people. It could have been 500,000 people. I don't think it would have made a difference to me, because you're just so locked in on your objectives, on what you have to accomplish on each play, and doing it for the people around you, your teammates, that, you have to almost remove yourself from that focus to feel the energy at times. And so that's what I was saying, when I'm on offense and the defense is on the field, then I can feel the energy from the stadium. Or after a big play, when you kind of like can soak it in, those moments you feel it. But otherwise, when you're locked in, it's just this euphoria of like, you don't even know it's there. So the public speaking thing, it's very present right in front of you, right? And so you're talking to people or with people that are in front of you, and that's a little more nerve-wracking for me.
That's incredible. I mean, you've been on teams like Miami Dolphins, Philadelphia Eagles, Jackson Jaguars, Tennessee Titans, and Seattle Seahawks. You've been on the greats. Did you get mindset coaching for that? Just curious.
There was a lot of it. The resources that are available both in college and the professional levels, there's a lot of them. So yeah, there was actually one of my favorites recently, unfortunately passed away. Dr. Dave Ukelson was a coach for us at Penn State, and just did a lot of amazing things with your mental approach and the way you thought about things. I took his class when I was in college, and even up until recently, before he passed, he was still doing that. He was working with, Scott's son plays Little League baseball now, and so in a competitive level. So Dr. Ukelson was actually helping these 10, 11-year-olds kind of with their mental preparation for games and getting them ahead of the curve. So yeah, there's a huge area of, so when you get to that level, like, to get better, you really have to think about like that. They talk about getting 1% better every day, and there's so many different things you can do, from nutrition to the mental preparation. All those things really help separate you at the elite level from your competition.
Are there any habits that you built that you still have?
I like a consistent routine. For me, it's getting a good workout in on a daily basis. It's stretching. It's getting into the Word. It's just kind of like that preparation. Marty Morningleg was the offensive coordinator when I was in Philadelphia with the Eagles on the practice squad in 2011. And I can remember him sitting in meetings, and he kind of had like a 2-finger point always when he was looking at the board. And he said, listen, man, what's going to separate us on Sunday is the preparation from Wednesday through Saturday. And he always harped on like, hey, it's the preparation with the preparation. So for me, those routines, that the routineness of routines is big for me. And that helped in my athletic career. And it's really transferred over to my professional career beyond sports, and it's helped me a lot.
Absolutely. We had a guest, Steve Drum, good friend of mine who is a Navy SEAL Master Chief, and he said that you're never going to rise to the occasion. You're going to rise to your level of preparation and practice. So it's not like game day. Okay, now I'm going to bring it. Yeah, it's you're in habit mode, and that's probably why you can just focus on the game and not all of the noise.
Yeah, it's trained for sure.
Yeah. What's your go-to pump up song before a big moment?
Wow, this changes a lot. I'm a very in the moment. I have a very eclectic taste for music. Some very soft, casual music can get me fired up in different moments. But if I had to pick one right now, in my workout routines, there's one called "Soul on Fire" by Third Day. That really I think is when I'm going for a run. That's the one that starts me off. Or if I'm in a tough time in the run, that's what I put on. Otherwise, actually, "Goodness of God" by CeCe Winans is one of my favorites. And there's a ton, but depends on the flavor of the day, the week. It changes pretty often.
Yes. Soul on Fire. You know it from the beginning beat, right? It's like, God, I'm running for
exactly.
Oh, that's so good. So good. Yes. What's a leadership quality you admire most in others?
Humility.
Beautiful. In Uplifting Athletes, if Uplifting Athletes had a mascot, what would it be and why?
Oh, this is easy. A zebra. So if you don't know the story about a zebra, the zebra is the unofficial mascot of the rare disease community. And the reason is because of what I was explaining earlier about how doctors are trained to look for the symptoms that lead to the common diagnosis. And it's essentially, the story goes that if you're looking for the horse, right, and you see a hoof print and you think of a horse, you don't realize that it could be a zebra depending on the outcome, right? So there's this big following within the rare disease community. The zebra is the unofficial mascot of the rare disease community because you got to think zebras, not horses, when you see hoof prints.
Oh my gosh. Do you ever use zebras in your events or anything?
We do, actually. One of through the uplifting experiences that we have on occasion as we're doing care packages for those events, one of the items that are given out are actually zebras with an Uplifting Athletes t-shirt on. So a little stuffed animal for the kids. And we kind of cycle through the care packages, so now everybody's getting the same things. But on occasion, the zebras are in there.
Oh, that's so great! I love it. A book that changed your perspective or shaped your leadership.
So recently, actually, Rocket Fuel was a book that we read about leadership and how the different strengths that people have and how you could use those to shape the leadership of an organization. And essentially, those are the things that combine to create rocket fuel to take your organization to the moon or wherever it is you're trying to go.
Brilliant. I love that book. What does generosity mean to you in one word?
Giving.
Yeah. And last one is, finish this sentence. Success is
defined by you. It's a common misconception that the success is defined externally. Everybody's idea of success is different. And so success has to be defined by you. You define your own success.
That's so great. I'm just looking at my phone because I have this daily quote calendar from Brian Framato, who is another ROG guest. He's the owner of Groove Management. Today's quote is, misery is chasing someone else's definition of success.
What? June 5th. There it is. Wow. Right on.
Isn't that nuts?
That's amazing.
Yeah, see, God's like,
Yep. Amen.
Yes. I'm so grateful for you, for joining us, for sharing this thought leadership, really for inspiring us, and just the ways that you're making a difference every day with your talent, time, and treasure. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate this platform and opportunity to share what I think has been a gift to me that I'm just trying to pay forward. And as much as I can do it for as long as I can, I'll continue to do so.
Thanks for listening to ROG, Return on Generosity podcast. Please help us grow by subscribing and reviewing us on your favorite podcast player. And for more information, visit bridgebetween.com. We grow when we give.
우리는 나누면서 성숙합니다.
We grow when we give.
On rayonne quand on donne.
We grow when we give.